What's going on, everyone? Thank you guys for tuning in today. Today we're going to talk about a topic near and dear to not only my heart and your heart, but probably your and my gut, and that's fiber. And today we're going to talk about fiber, probably not in a way that you are accustomed to hearing about. We all know that there's plenty of benefits of fiber, from cardiovascular health to gut health directly, to appetite suppression, to favoring the growth of beneficial bacteria. But today I'm going to talk about situations where it may be best for you to actually decrease your fiber intake. And I'm going to talk about two situations in particular where that may be worth experimenting with. Number one is before exercise. And this is going to depend on the intensity of the exercise. If you're going to engage in any sort of high intensity exercise of places where your heart rate's going to be really elevated and your breathing rate is going to be super high, and you're going to do a lot of breathing in and out through your mouth, that tells me that it's going to be a pretty intense exercise session. If you're going to have a pre-workout meal before that, I would not want to have a lot of fiber in that, and here's why. Fiber actually slows down digestion. It's called slower gastric emptying, which is just the rate at which food goes from your stomach into the first part of your intestine, the small intestine. Now, if you eat a lot of fiber before you go and do a lot of intense exercise, your stomach and belly are going to feel really, really full, and it's going to be really, really uncomfortable if you're trying to do max out effort on the row or the assault bike, or if you're trying to do a max effort deadlift or a back squat and you're trying to generate a lot of intra-abdominal pressure, but you have so much food that's still left in there that it hasn't fully digested, and then that's a feeling no one really wants to have to deal with. And that's where sometimes you even run into situations where people have to vomit because food is still partly in the stomach. And then when you start breathing a lot, your body's just like, hey, let's get rid of everything in the GI tract, so it can go one of two ways. If it's still in the stomach, it's probably coming out the mouth. So that's the first situation. If you're just going to go for a walk or light aerobic work and your heart rate and breathing rate really aren't going to get that elevated, then it's still okay to eat fiber beforehand, because you're not really going to be exercising at a rate that'll start diverting blood flow from your GI tract, and that's really going to cause you to feel really bloated and really full. But again, if you're going to do any intense running, rowing, CrossFit, weightlifting, God forbid even something like swimming, if it's going to be really intense, I would try to limit the fiber intake and stick to some more simple carbohydrates like fruit or rice is a really good option. And if you're low carb, maybe just experiment with fasting or maybe just a few eggs. Second situation in which I would recommend or have someone experiment with reducing their fiber intake is if you hear this statement. And I hear this sometimes in clinic. I eat a really, really clean diet, and it seems the better I eat, the worse my gut feels. That tells you that there is some sort of gut dysbiosis going on. If they're eating lots of vegetables, lots of whole foods, minimally processed things, maybe even some grains, and they're always feeling bloated, fatigued, having abdominal pain, potentially even constipation or more than likely diarrhea, to me that says that they are eating not even too much fiber, but they're eating the wrong types of fibers and the wrong types of plants for their gut bacteria. And so what I would recommend in that situation is something like a low FODMAP diet. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with FODMAPs, they're just types of carbohydrates. And fiber fits under the category of carbohydrates. If you look at a nutrition label, it'll say total carbohydrates and then total sugars and total fiber. So the low FODMAP diet actually reduces a lot of fermentable food that can really aggravate people's gut. So this can be things like onions and garlic and avocados and apples. Can be beneficial for overall health, but in people that have maybe IBS or any underlying gut dysbiosis, they can't handle that degree of fiber. The low FODMAP diet is very complex, and it's also very individualized. So I would recommend that you do it under the guidance of an experienced dietitian or a practitioner that has experience working with the low FODMAP diet, because for some people it's one class, for some people it's a different class of FODMAPs, and so you need to work with a clinician or a physician that knows how to tailor it to you, because there's a very specific way you take out foods, and then there's a very specific way you reintroduce them, because like I mentioned, a lot of these foods are beneficial for overall human health. They just need to temporarily remove them so you can kind of kill off some of the bad guys. So again, guys, just to reiterate, fiber, very, very important. I always recommend people, hey, try to get fiber into your diet, but there are very specific situations like we just talked about where it may be advantageous or beneficial for you to reduce your fiber intake, and that is 1, before intense exercise or exercise in general if you're really sensitive, or 2, if you're someone that eats a lot of vegetables, eats really clean, yet always has digestive issues. So thanks guys, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please leave it a like, leave it a comment down below, and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Thanks guys.